we weren't really sure exactly which angle to take on this module because there's so many different angles that you can take, and there's so many different levels of depth. At the beginning for Tara and I, it was more about, okay, I'm not going to work past 6 o'clock. After 6 o'clock, we're just focusing on us. And this was after we had already made a certain level of money. At the beginning, it was kind of like all hands on deck. What can we make happen? Let's definitely go on dates. Okay, going way back in time, in the beginning, it was about me just being able to sit through a movie without taking a call. Like that was when I realized I had a problem, right? But having that been said, sometimes we would put in a 10-hour day on Saturday because we had to do what it took to make things happen, to take care of our family, because that's what made things fun. That's what helped people made money and made things fun because we needed that money. But then even there was a balance. And then later on that turned into, okay, I'm not going to work after 6. And then after that, it actually got to the extreme of to where I was only working a few hours a day. And that's when we started our education business because I didn't have fulfillment from that. Then we sold our business. You and I got involved in a bunch of other things and we weren't connected. And we had a bunch of internal stuff we were working through. Our marriage was struggling basically. And then that wasn't happy either. And I'm not saying we're the happiness king and queens right now, but man, things are a lot better than they were, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't easy. It took a lot of reflection and it wasn't about the money. I always say I would much rather live in a shack with you and the kids, I guess, if they, I don't know if that fit, but
I guess.
And have love and connection. I don't mean I guess. Anyway, when I envision the shack, I guess
They
the
got
kids
kicked
already
out.
out of, I don't know, something. The shack's pretty small. Hey, I lived in a lot of shacks growing up though, and we made it work. So I'd rather live in a shack and have love and connection and peace and harmony than have a bazillion gazillion dollars. There have been many times where I've created like $1 billion business plans. And the truth is, even with Millionaire University, if you guys listened to the last module, you heard me say we have a goal of netting $1 million a Millionaire University this year, which for a third year of a business is pretty good, especially considering the fact that we traveled for 9 months and we're living the lifestyle that we're living. And we have other income streams coming in from other businesses and investments. So first of all, we could have a $10 million goal this year, but we intentionally are not doing that because right now in our life, if I were to choose between our fun goals and connection goals and love goals and like things like that, or to make that $1 million, like if I had to pick one or the other, like there's no question. No, I'll take a $500,000 and we're going to Disneyland. Actually, what's funny is these last few days, that's what we've been doing is we've been going through and planning out the calendar. And our goal is to do about a trip every other week is kind of what it's planning out to be. And there's a lot of nuance to that, but that's kind of our priority. And that goal or doing those things to me is more important than any money goal that we have. We've already intentionally made the money goal less, but those goals are more important to me because we have so much fun and connection when we're in that space. And once again, sometimes I'm reluctant to say these things because if you're not yet in that space, you can still choose to be happy and content now. It's just based on where you are. Our brains know where we're at. Our souls, they know when we're being true to where we are in that situation. So for us, a huge part of our fulfillment is doing Millionaire University, is giving back. There's some things that Tara wants to do in the future and projects she wants to work on. But what we've done is we've learned that there's a certain amount of time. It's not an exact number, and it depends on when we're launching a project versus we've built that machine and now we're kind of in more maintenance mode or whatnot. But there's a certain amount of time, energy, effort that our brains, minds, hearts want to and are able to and desire to put towards certain things. But when it comes to things like making money and other things that are more measurable, it's really easy to know I reached that goal, I didn't reach that goal. But things like connection, time with your family, love, those things, they're a little harder to measure. So for us, we're like, okay, we know the things that we like to do that help us fill those feelings and be in that space and create time for just us when we don't have all the kids. We love it when our kids come in and talk to us. It's one of our most favorite things. But with 4 teenagers, like it happens a lot. Sometimes we work on something and we're spending time together and they come in. So for us, Tara and I leaving and taking those trips, or maybe it is sometimes with the kids, that's part of what we love. So I'm rambling. Tara, help take us home. Help us wrap this up here on this module.
Okay, so a couple of thoughts. I joined this program, I think it was a couple years ago, and food has always kind of been a nemesis of mine, something I haven't really been able to have very good boundaries with. And it's definitely my drug of choice, like the thing I've used to soothe myself in life because sometimes life is uncomfortable and I don't understand how things work. I'm realizing it takes a lot for a human being to take a look at the world and go, this is a risk, but also I'm game for it. And I don't know all the answers to things and I don't know necessarily how things work. And In this program, she gave this scenario of basically the different types of people who choose to eat healthy. She said, and I think these were the numbers, there are about a third of the population who they just eat and it's not this thing they really think about. It just happens and they stay pretty trim. Then there's this other group where they don't know a lot about health and nutrition, but once they learn it, they implement those principles. And then before you know it, they're pretty healthy. And then there's this other group, this last third, where they have learned the things, but for some reason, food has this power over them and they can't quite figure it out. It's just like this mystery and it just pulls at them. And that's more the area where I live, is figuring out food and realizing how I use it and what I really need. And so I think that kind of applies to a lot of areas of life. Like if you think about people who are happy, there are probably a third of people who are just, and these are my own numbers made up, but it kind of seems to be accurate in my experience. There are some who just get it and they just are pretty content. And then there are some who are struggling and they're like, I can't figure this out. And then they figure out principles and they're pretty comfortable. And then there are a third of people who really have some things that have really put some problems on their life. Like some things have happened and they're just like, this doesn't make sense to me. How do I make sense of this? Or they're carrying some really hard things and they really have to work hard to find that peace and contentment. And I find that similar also with business. You have people who they are just born entrepreneurs and they know what they want to do and they are confident and they're just like bulldozers. Like they go, we don't discredit the hard work and the things that they're doing, but like it's just in them. Then you have some people, like myself, I'd probably put myself in this category where they're living and they have no idea what it's like to be an entrepreneur. It's not really a world that they live in. It's not something that they necessarily think naturally about. And that world is introduced to them. They learn some things and they can go and they can run. And then you have a third of people who learn about the world, but they have so many hard things that they're carrying or just fears or concerns, or they just aren't connecting or hanging out with the right people so they can really believe that something's possible for them. And so they really struggle. For each one of you, you're all in your own unique place. You might be young, you might be middle-aged, you might be older. You might be struggling to pay the bills. You might be doing well, but you want to invest some money. It really kind of depends where you at and what do you need. And it's a wild journey because in every single one of us as human beings, there really is this part of us that is completely capable of achieving all your financial goals. But in a lot of us as well, there can be this other part of us that really fights in this battle. And the brain and the ego can be very intelligent and very subtle in the ways in which they sabotage these financial goals, the ways in which we stop ourselves, the ways in which we avoid the things that scare us the most, but can be the most impactful in our business. So for each one of you, in reaching financial goals, in reaching personal goals, in that inner and outer journey, there will also be an inner and outer work. Because the truth is, you really only limit your financial goals by how you limit yourself internally. Carl Jung, I'm sure many of you have heard about him. He basically said the goal of his life is to take everything that's stored in his subconscious and make it conscious, meaning most of us are taking in about 11 million bits of information per, was it second or minute?
A second. Yeah.
So we're taking in constant information. We can only consciously be aware of about 5% of it. Therefore, 95% of what happens to us is stored. The tricky part is sometimes you start a business and you have, let's say, 10 positive thoughts, beliefs, and or dreams about you achieving this financial success. But little do you know, you may have 20 negative thoughts, beliefs, stories in your subconscious that are going, I hear your goal, but what about this? Well, have you thought about this? Jeff Bezos was saying we overestimate risk and underestimate opportunity. The brain is wired for survival. And so there comes these moments in your life where you have to pull at something bigger than what your head is screaming at you and what the voices are saying that you can't do. And you have to look for that part inside of you and go, can I do this? What am I willing to do? Am I willing to face this? And a lot of times it's not that you have to work 5 million hours and that you have to do all these crazy things. It's that you have to do the thing that currently scares you the most. When we were working with Bill Allen in our last house flipping business, he had this quote, or I'm sure he got it from somewhere else, where it's basically, what do we need to do today and which alligator is closest to the boat? And that varies for all of us. What are our KPIs? What are our metrics financially? What are our KPIs and what are our metrics personally? Because those really do combine to create a life that you enjoy. And so it's very human to want black and white answers, to say, this is the only way. And, we love to see that on social media and we love to see that on podcasts where it's like the 10 best things, the number 3 things, the only thing I do. I would never do this, very black and white thinking, very extreme at times. I find that for me and for healthy human beings is they have the ability to live in some tension, to live in paradox. So where we're saying, if you have a financial goal, heck yes, go for that. Do that thing, develop and build yourself. But at the same breath, we're also saying, but it's not everything. Go for it, but you don't have to go for it. To find yourself, to lose yourself. There are these great paradoxes that live in our human souls that if you can find peace with going, I really want to push myself in this area and I really want to accomplish and develop these things, but at the same time, I have value and can contribute no matter who I am, where I am, or what I'm doing. And so, who are you? What do you want to do? What are your goals? Get out there, challenge yourself, and reach those goals, and then be up for whatever comes along the way, whatever inner voices you have to battle. Pull at that part of you that says, I am capable. Half of my heart has a grip on this situation. Take that grip and do something and create something that you like. And when you have these moments where you fall and break down, dive into those as well. When you have these moments where you succeed, dive into those as well. Continue to grow and create a life that you can look back on and go, I made a bunch of mistakes. I did a bunch of awesome things and they're all beautiful and they've all created me to be the person that I am today. And I keep showing up for the parts of me that I don't really love the way in which they're manifesting right now. And I'm just going to keep tackling those and also embrace the parts of us that show up in the way we really want to show up. It takes a lot of courage to see our shadow, and it takes a lot of courage to shine our light. That is the goal of Millionaire University. Face your shadow, shine your light, create a good life.
Boom, baby. I kept having like certain thoughts. I'm like, oh, okay, she covered it. That's better. Oh, I like that. I like that. So that's it, guys. Lifestyle design. I truly believe that you can live the life you want to live in the way you want to live it.
That's specific to you, that's authentically you. And it takes a lot of courage and it's going to look different than you think. So be up for the journey and go for it.
That is it for module 10, the final module of the Build My Money Machine program. Proud of you. You guys have learned a lot in this course. We've seen a lot of you grow, a lot of great questions, a lot of great breakthroughs. It's been exciting to follow you on your journey. Just keep it up, one day at a time, one step at a time. Keep adapting and adjusting as you go. You can do this. We believe in you.
If there are voices inside of you that say you can't and you won't, push those aside and pull out that part of you that says, I know I can do this. I'm up for the challenge. Let's go.
You got this.